suicide is viewed as an exit strategy. But the problem with suicide is A, if you've been indoctrinated religiously to believe it's bad, you're fucked.
Yeah.
And B, we have no fucking clue if we go back to that. Because no one's ever gone and come back and told us. So there's uncertainty. But that's exactly why suicide looks so, there's a thing called suicidal ideation. It's idealized. How many of you ever thought of death?
Hell yeah.
Of like, oh my God, if I could just die and get out of it. Most of us. Why? Because what we're longing for is this idea of just being one with God, spirit, soul, universe, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Well, now
The next best thing, give me one second. The next best thing is to go back to the womb. On your chart, you have a moon. That is how you psychologically think you're back in the womb. Mine is in a shit sign called Cancer. Cancer is a sign of the child and the mother. So let me be an eternal little baby and never grow up and be so immature. Or let me be a mom. Every sign has a way for you to pretend that you're going back to the womb. But the womb is not heaven. The womb is not the soul. The womb is not the universe. But it's all we got psychologically. So what your client will do in a longing to get back home to heaven, again, I'm using heaven as just a word that explains all of this. What they really do in their behavior is they behave like the moon. Because subconsciously and psychologically, if I get back to the womb, then I'm safe. Then I'm with God. Then I'm intact. Then I'm one. It's bullshit. Because your mom is a human outside working and fighting and crying and all this shit. And that's how you get your moon sign. What shit your mother was going through during her pregnancy. That's another class. Yes, you had a comment. Hold on.
Oh no, that I question the whole bullshit of heaven. Is it even existed? What if I die and I just...
Heaven simply means going back to the source.
No, yeah.
Without a body.
But
that's all it means. I too am in a major, like, what the fuck do I believe?
Mine is because of the doctrine, because of Catholicism.
Right, exactly.
So I'm like, do I go to this rainbow, beautiful paradise that they explain in the Bible? Or like, does my body just sit there and like fuck?
Well, and this is not for me to decide for you, especially since I'm in my own sort of figuring it out. But think about it. All of that is story. They have to paint a rainbow. They have to put a cute little chicken. They have to put cute little clouds that smile and a sun and all of that shit. In the movie The End of the World with all of the actors, Seth Rogen, James Franco, great movie, stupid as shit, but funny as shit. They all go back to heaven. Well, of course, they're all stoners, because that whole, group of actors are, so they get to heaven and they're doing hip hop and they're smoking blunts. That's at the end of the movie, and it's super funny, because that's their version of heaven. So your religion gave you your version, your family or your whatever living gave you your version. Everybody has their version of what they conjure up. But the only thing we know, the basics, is we didn't have a body here, right? We were spirit, we were just an essence, whatever you want to call it, energy. And we go back to that intact place. Maybe there's 1,000 people, maybe there's nobody, maybe it's you and God just merged into whatever. You picture your own picture. That's the only thing we know. We don't know anything else. Every single other thing is just religion or philosophy giving a story so that the little kids, come learn. So it's the only thing we know. So what happens every time we create chaos in our life? What we're trying to do is to get back home to this source of heaven, of God, of the universe, of spirit. But we cannot get rid of our body like in death. That's why it hurts. That's why that process of crisis and chaos hurts, because when you die, you leave the flesh, which is what gives you the pain. And like you said, when you're in the womb, you turn from this nothing spirit to a body, and you get the pain. So the womb is not the same as heaven, because there is a body being formed. And crisis and chaos is not the same as heaven, because there's a body in the middle. And it is the body that castrates us. It is the body that makes us feel like shit. It's the body that made me go off on a rampage. It's the body that makes me cry. The spirit is just there, hanging out. So what we really don't like, and what really castrates us, is the fact we have a body. And that is why people idealize suicide in moments of existential crisis and chaos. Because it's the body that's causing the pain. And what happened when you got conceived? What was the gift that your motherfucking parents gave you when they had sex?
Life.
A body! Life, a body. Because I've said this before. If you have a baby, and you pop out your baby, and I'm the nurse, and I go, here, Nicole, and I give you a ball of spirit, what are you going to tell me?
Where the fuck is my child?
Where the fuck is the baby? Where's the body?
Where's my child?
Me giving you a ball of spirit that you can't see or touch or anything is like, what the fuck? What did I just
It's
pop
like
out?
giving you oxygen. Here's oxygen.
Exactly. I need a body. I need a container. And what do containers do?
Oh,
What is the function of a container?
hold shit in.
To castrate, to hold you back, whether it's your body, whether it's that cup of coffee. Any container castrates. And what was the first container we got? The womb, which is where the body, the next container was, and then this motherfucking earth, which has limits because none of us can fly.
I know.
This is all the reason we create chaos.
Can we
Because
say
what we're
right
really
now?
saying is, I'm castrated, I'm castrated, I'm castrated. Get me out of this container. I want to fucking die. And people that are in crisis, whether they mean it or not, idealize suicide or not, will say that. I want to fucking die. Of course you want to fucking die, because you want to get back to freedom and liberty. But since you can't, you blame it on someone or something. Your job, your boss, your husband, your low income, your car, your health. And the Uranus in your chart will say, this is what I blame it on. The Saturn in your chart will say, this is what I blame it on. I happen to have it in my marriage house. And lo and behold, the 2 times that I was castrated as fuck was with my husband.
I want to see what this is.
So this is just archetypes on a piece of paper saying this is where you're going to feel castrated. This is how you're going to create crisis. But what you're really rebelling against is the fact that you had to leave heaven, this intact place where you didn't have a body, and you didn't have bills, and you didn't have castration. You didn't have castration. And the ancients knew this. And the spiritual people knew this. So they said, shit, we better make suicide really, really unappealing. Because the minute a human hits crisis, they're going to want to kill themselves, get out of the body, what's castrating them, and we're going to have a problem. So the stories and the religions and all of this has a function, but no one ever fucking explains it to us. So we're all like, oh my God. So no one wants anyone to freaking die. Why? Because we know that we're going to get through this crisis just like the cocoon, the caterpillar gets out of the cocoon and grows wings. We too shall go into the next state of stability. It's about going through the process, and that's when therapists are most sought out. And our job is to help the person get into the cocoon, survive the cocoon, and get out of the cocoon. And hopefully, once they grow their wings, we can say, see ya, because someone should not be dependent on you forever and ever and ever. So that's part, again, of the process. So it is the fact that we feel castrated. And so in the story, Saturn came and chopped off Uranus' testicle. Where did the testicle go?
Down to the ocean, didn't it?
Yep.
And that's when.
And what happened?
The woman was.
Venus,
born, right?
came out of the ocean, naked, like in the picture of Botticelli, with her long hair covering her vagina and her boobs, and she's all sexy.
I'm sexy, yeah.
And so from chaos
came us, woman.
What came? And why is it woman? Why does it have to be a woman?
Because we have to rebirth.
Because women are the only ones that can have babies.
Oh, so we're
And
together.
so, from chaos, from the testicle, sex, man was born.
But
And so, what does religion have to tell you?
sex is horrible.
Don't have sex.
Oh my
It's the
God!
worst.
Sex is horrible!
Don't you even think about
Don't
it because
even
you're
think
sinning.
about it unless you're procreating, and God forbid you use contraception.
Yep.
It's like freaking double standard here.
Yeah.
Because from castration has nothing to do with the freaking testicle. It has to do with having a body and having a problem and having money and bills and children and husbands and jobs and buildings and the earth. Humans were born. And so the only way a human being knows how to function is by creating chaos so they can make a change when they're dissatisfied with something in their life. Nobody knows how to make a change calmly and balanced and everything's great. Bullshit. We come from chaos. We are castrated by a body that then creates the body. The body limits us, so we start creating change and crisis when we want something new. So for instance, Nellis has Uranus in the first. She will change and castrate because she's dissatisfied with the physical first house or personality, because that's where Uranus is in her house. My house is with social circles and my second husband, and he's the one that destroyed me. You have it where?
Mine, Uranus, is it's that one. Yeah, it's in the same house as Chaos, which is the 9th.
Okay, that's your spiritual beliefs, that's religion,
Hell
that's
yeah.
higher education, all the stuff that we talk about.
Yes.
So that is where you will constantly feel castrated and try to renew and recharge and change. All in hopes of getting back home to heaven. And that's all you're trying to do. So human beings are born from chaos. The reason that it's the testicle that represents sex is because something new is birthed. So the Greeks just said the testicle, and from that, Venus was born. Venus in the chart that you have represents your feminine or birthing energy. What you birth, what you create. That's it.
Yeah.
But the idea is that we cannot move in to a transition in one stage of our life to the next, to the next, to the next. First of all, conception. Mom and dad were one. Dad pulls out. You're conceived. You're castrated by the body. Pregnancy. So you can see where I got my model. Pregnancy. Mom is one person. You're creating a second person. There's not wholeness. Birth. You're one with mom. You come out. There's another separation. And then 0 to 7, you think the perfect world. And then you go to school and you're saying, oh fuck, I'm not special. That's where I got my theory. In each one of these steps, we go from wholeness to chaos, birthed, separated from the source.
It's a constant battle of a cycle that will never end.
That will never end. That will never end until you lose your body, you go back to source, whatever that means, and you do the motherfucking thing again, if you believe that.
So I have something to talk about, right? This morning, Yvonne's apartment at 3 o'clock in the morning, they come knocking on the door. The fucking apartment is flooded, dude. When I'm telling you the kitchen, the same thing that happened to yours. A leak from one of the apartments upstairs, and it was all over the kitchen, dude. And this nigga is sleeping. And so it's me and the lady that he rents out to and his son dealing with the whole thing. So this morning, Yvonne wakes up and he's blaming his daughter. He's like, because of my daughter, I got this piece of shit apartment. And I'm like, listen, it's not because of your damn daughter. It's not because of your fucking, listen, let me explain something to you. It's because we're pendejos and we allow ourselves to fucking put our own selves in our own bullshit, okay?
That's exactly right.
And then he's like, but I had a chance to resell it back to the original owner. I don't know why I didn't take it, because I was listening to my daughter. I'm like, listen, shut the fuck up with your daughter.
It's just his story.
Yeah, get your daughter out of the thing. It's you. You're an 80-year-old man. Take care of what you have. He doesn't have insurance, by the way, on this apartment. So now God knows what's going to happen.
God knows.
God
knows.
You feel me? Exactly. And I'm like, if I see you guys out on the street, I'm going to wave to you high and by, because I can't do shit.
I can't offer you anywhere.
So it's like me coming into class today and hearing all of this and then relating it to this.
And you want to know the funny thing is
like,
that Uranus rules floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, all weather patterns, all things that are like destructive like that. Different than Pluto. Pluto rules earthquakes, underground type things. Uranus, because it's the sky, rules all of the weather stuff. So a flood is a Uranus thing on cue.
no, and he just got out of that whole eviction notice to go into this one. And it's like, I feel bad. I'm like, pobre viejo, man. Que se muera ya. Because, pobre, like...
So astrologically, our death is dictated. Even though Saturn and Pluto are the death planets, funny enough, Uranus is the planet that rules death in the sense of when you die. So I don't play God and I don't go to people, you're going to die at X, Y, Z. I had a client the other day who says to me, I'm very comfortable with death. Does the chart say I'm going to die? And I said, yes. The way that the planets were lined up, I said to him, look, this is a death. It could be a symbolic death, that you're like the Persephone story with Pluto, or it's the 8th house. You can absolutely physically die. I'm not going to tell you you can, but I'm also not telling you you will. And Uranus is the planet. So what we do is we take Uranus. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the whole zodiac. So at 84, we say that's when you die. And anything extra is extra that you got. What's half of 84?
40 something.
42. At 42 years old, every single one of you in this room, every single one of you, wherever you have Uranus, you will basically die the person you were and birth the new. And I'm going to pick on Miss Rapace. Miss Rapace has Uranus in the first house. It's the house of me, the individual. At 40 you had Angelica?
Yeah, 41.
At 41, so between 40 and 42, but by 42 the cycle's over, she went to her 7th house because the Uranus was in the 7th, opposite the 1st. And she got married, she had kids, and now the whole 7th part of her life is not about her, but rather her spouse and her children. Every single one of us will have that. So 40 to 42, wherever you have Uranus, look at the house, the opposite house. So Nellis, that bodes very well for you. Not to say you have to wait till that age. Don't freak the fuck out on me.
I know, right?
I'm just saying that's how she lived out her story. That's how she lived it out. Okay? So wherever you have Uranus, between 40 and 42 years old, in the opposite house, the axis, remember, is where you're going to have that. And your life is going to be split in two. This was a good thing, but life as she knew it was no longer. And every single one of us has this.
What's the 8th house?
What's the opposite?
The 8th house is death, taxes, sex, other people's money,
I have
relationships.
the desire thingy too, right next to the Uranus in the 8th house. Right.
Yeah, no, your whole chart right now is fine. Don't even look at it.
What's opposite?
6th. So you can have health issues.
Oh my God.
You can have job issues.
What's opposite of the 9th house?
The 3rd. It's the way you think.
Wonderful.
So it's all to do with your thoughts.
I'm gonna get Alzheimer's.
No, you're not going to have Alzheimer's, but you're going to change your whole way of thinking, your belief system, all of that. That's a great one.
Awesome.
My brother had that, and I saw a total transformation with
It's
that.
good.
Mine is a 7.
I know, that's why I said. It doesn't have to be like her, that you're going to wait till 40 to get married and have kids. I'm just saying that that's going to be the axis. So that is, ironically, in astrology. Now, why do you think that this is when we die, so to speak, at 84, when the Uranus goes full circle?
Because we're back.
Because we're back home to liberation. And what's the biggest liberation? Liberating yourself of the physical body. In Hinduism, there's something called moksha. There's 4 stages of life in Hinduism. And the 4th stage of life is called moksha, where you check into the ashram, you give away all your personal financial things, you wear your little orange robe, you check into the ashram that you've been paying for your whole life, you're taken care of, you're fed, you're given a room, and you work on your spirit. It's moksha, means liberation. And so you stay there until you liberate, you die, and in the process, you're liberating yourself of your thoughts and all your shit.
I'm gonna go into Hinduism now.
So,
Fuck that, man. Why not? Shit,
and that lasts, that's later on. In the sacred text, it's 60 years old, granted we're living longer, but Hinduism's very good on that because the stages of life, you're a child, you're a householder, or you're responsible for your bills, your wife, your kids, your husband, all of that. You meet your desires, that's called kama. And then the last stage, after you've done it all, because you cannot sit still and focus on your spirit if you're still like, man, I should have opened that restaurant. Damn, if only I could have been the next, American Idol star.
No.
You've got to saturate.
Everything.
You got that one?
Yes,
You got to saturate your desires. Get them out of your system. The ego. So that then you can work on your spirit. And in Hinduism, they do a really good job at explaining that, and I love that concept in
That's
that.
awesome. That's
Okay.
really cool. And my grandmother actually died at 84. And then my
Every time
grandfather
someone
died
dies, I'm like, oh, that was Uranus.
Yep.
Oh, I always
Yeah.
do that anytime I hear something on the news.
But I tell Yvonne, all the time. I'm like, listen, whatever your problems are, I don't give a fuck. You're gonna stay alive until I graduate because I need a ride to school. You are not fucking dying. I will revive your ass if need be. But
That's
it's
funny.
just, and then the day we
He's too
finished
sweet,
class on Tuesday, I get into the car and the first thing that comes out his mouth, you know, you're studying psychology. What do you think my son's problem is? And I'm like, he's like, right. I was like, he's like, you know, because you're studying it, and I'm sure you've seen, you know, the psychological aspects. And I'm like, look, Iman, I'm gonna tell you, your son has a mental problem because at 40 years old, being a dishwasher and being a mantenido is not normal.
Okay, but
Okay.
what is speaking there?
My inner
values.
fucking exactly.
Those are her values as a double Capricorn.
No.
So that's, in this case, it's fine because she's not seeing him as a client.
No.
But that's something we have to keep in check when we're seeing clients. Wait a minute, is this my value system? If he's paying his bills and he's a minimalist and he wants to make $6 an hour, who the fuck are we to say that that's wrong?
Right.
So I'm just pugging you know,
right,
just to
but his whole thing, and he goes back to when Henry was a kid, that he kept telling his wife, we need to take this kid to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, there's something wrong. But he blames his wife because he's like, my wife never wanted that. My wife didn't. And I'm like, but you're the father. You could have easily taken him yourself. Don't put shit on other people.
It's easier to push.
You know, it is.
So you don't
It
have
is.
to take the blame yourself.
Of course, it is. And that's why this morning with his daughter, I'm like, look, it's not about your damn daughter. Okay? You chose this apartment. You're almost 80 years old. You chose it. Just take care of it.
Right.
Because take care of what you have, nigga. Because if I pass you by the streets, my ass is going to be like, hi and bye.
And so one of the things that we can do with clients, we're in the midst of this chaos, is not only take them back to when it's appropriate, obviously they're going through a hard time, with what it is that castrated them, what it is that they were dissatisfied with, and what change they're looking for. We know people go back to school because they're dissatisfied with their job, or they get fired. We know things like that. We know that people make major changes if they have an illness and they survive, like me. We know that if, like the lady who created Mothers Against Drunk Driving, my child dies, I start a not-for-profit organization. It creates change. Chaos inevitably leads to change. Because why? We have to go back to the stability. The thing is that it's a new foundation. The foundation as you knew it will cease to exist. Never ever again, even if he came back, which I know he's not, would my relationship with my husband be the same one we had before. And that's why Uranus rules hurricanes and floods and all of these things, because those are the things that shake the ground. Those are the things that pull the rug from underneath you. Your house you lose in the hurricane, even if you rebuild it, it's not the same house. So you break down at a cellular level and you reconstruct yourself on new meaning, on new conditions, on new beliefs, in a new city, in a new job, with a new relationship. You cease to be the same person you once were.
I think that's
Until
where
you're castrated again. What was
I
that?
think that's where the conflict comes from with him. Because before the Uranus and the chaos and stuff, it was at one level, it was supposed to be, you know, like one way you do this, I do this, we're for each other. And then after the cheating and all that, I pulled away. Because I'm like, it's never going to be the same. And I think that's what I battle all the time. Like, well, if I actually were to try, no, but it's still not going to be the same.
Okay, so, and I've shared this with you guys over and over again, I am very pro-marriage. And when I seek clients, especially as couples, although most of my clients are women, But a lot of my clients cheat, a lot of my clients want to get out of their relationships. I'm very pro-marriage and I'm very upfront about that, with the exception if there's abuse. And I don't support abuse, it's not something that I can do, so I refer. I am the believer, and this does not mean that my truth is the truth. We are going to cease to be the same person over